welcome to the deep dive. You brought some pretty serious events in Beirut's southern suburbs to our attention. So today, we're really going to dig into these recent Israeli airstrikes there, especially since the ceasefire began late last year. We're using a report from the Indian Express.
Yeah, it's a detailed piece.
Our mission, really, is to understand the significant, what's behind these strikes. Okay, let's unpack this.
Right. Well, the first thing this report highlights is that the strike on Sunday, April 27th, wasn't a one-off.
Okay.
It's actually the third strike on Beirut's southern suburbs since that ceasefire started back in November.
The third. Wow. That repetition itself, it feels important.
It absolutely does. It sort of points towards a fundamental instability, doesn't it, in the agreement itself. And these don't seem random.
No, it sounds calculated, especially since the report mentions a warning about an hour beforehand for this Sunday strike.
Exactly, an hour's warning. And there are apparently two sort of preliminary warning strikes before the main one hit that suggests, deliberate signaling.
Signaling what, though? What was Israel's stated reason?
Their official line is that they target a Hezbollah storage facility, specifically for precision-guided missiles.
Ah, okay. Precision-guided missiles.
Yes. And their argument is that storing that kind of equipment there is a direct violation of the ceasefire agreement.
So Israel sees this as enforcement, essentially, addressing a breach. What did the aftermath look like, according to the report?
Well, there was a large plume of smoke. The target seemed to be like a metal tent structure between two buildings, hit with 3 bombs.
3 bombs. And there was confirmation on the ground?
Yeah, an AP photographer was there, saw 2 trucks burned out and destroyed inside what looked like a hangar. Social media footage apparently showed similar scenes.
Gotcha. So visual confirmation of destroyed vehicles inside. Were there casualties reported from this Sunday strike?
The report says no immediate reports of casualties, which, could be down to the warning, perhaps.
Possibly. You mentioned the warning was specific.
Very specific. Named the Hadath area, told residents to move at least 300 meters away.
Okay. And the reaction locally? Well, reports of gunfire in the air in the Al Jamas neighborhood, trying to warn people, urge them to evacuate, families fleeing in panic. It paints a picture of real fear.
Understandably. And this area, the southern suburbs, it has a history, doesn't it? The article touches on that.
Oh, absolutely. You have to connect this back to the last big Israel-Hezbollah war. During that time, Israeli jets, drones, they were constantly over the southern suburbs.
Because Israel views it as a Hezbollah stronghold.
Precisely. A militant stronghold, lots of support for Hezbollah there. And Israel hasn't just bombed it. They've assassinated several top Hezbollah figures in this area over the years.
Including Hassan Nasrallah himself, the report notes.
Yes. And the core accusation, which keeps coming up, is that Hezbollah stores weapons there among the civilian population.
It's a deeply entrenched narrative and, conflict. What about the immediate reactions to this strike, the Sunday one?
Lebanese President Joseph Aoun condemned it immediately. And significantly, he called on the U.S. and France.
The ceasefire guarantors. Exactly. Called on them to pressure Israel to stop. He warned that these continued actions undermine stability and risk wider regional problems.
So a direct appeal for intervention from the guarantors. Any other reactions noted?
Yes, the UN Special Coordinator for Lebanon, Jeanine Hennis, she posted on X, Twitter, about the strike generating panic and fear of renewed violence. And she urged everyone involved to stop actions that undermine the ceasefire and the original UN resolution.
These calls keep happening, but the strikes continue. You said this was the third one. What about the other 2?
Right. Before Sunday's strike, there was one on March 28th. That one also had a warning.
Okay.
But then there was one on April 1st. That was unannounced, and it killed 4 people, including a Hezbollah official.
Ah, unannounced and with fatalities.
Yeah.
That must have really raised the temperature.
You'd have to assume so. It suggests maybe a shift or at least a willingness to strike without warning under certain circumstances, and that leads into Hezbollah's position.
Right. What's their stance currently, according to the report?
Well, Sheikh Naim Qassem, a top Hezbollah official, recently warned. He said if Israeli attacks keep happening and the Lebanese government doesn't act, Hezbollah might have to look at other alternatives.
Other alternatives?
Yeah.
That sounds like a veiled threat of retaliation.
It's certainly interpreted that way. He also made it clear that Hezbollah fighters won't disarm as long as Israeli troops remain in southern Lebanon, and as long as Israeli aircraft keep violating Lebanese airspace.
So they're linking their disarmament to specific Israeli actions, or lack thereof. Which brings us back to the ceasefire itself.
Right.
What were the key terms again?
It was U.S. brokered, ended that 14-month war. The core points were Israel withdraws from all Lebanese territory by late January,
Right.
and Hezbollah ends its armed presence south of the Litani River.
But these strikes, especially in Beirut and Hezbollah's stance, it seems there's a fundamental disagreement about whether those terms are being met.
That seems undeniable. Both sides likely see violations by the other. And the violence isn't just in Beirut. The report also mentions another incident on the same Sunday.
Oh, what was that?
A drone strike, this time in a village called Halta in southern Lebanon. It killed a man.
And Israel's position on that one?
Their military claimed on X they targeted a Hezbollah member who was, quote, rebuilding the group's terrorist capabilities.
So ongoing tit-for-tat, it seems, across different areas. What about the overall human cost since the ceasefire began?
The Lebanese government figures cited are pretty grim. 190 people killed and 485 wounded in Lebanon from Israeli strikes since November.
That's a significant toll for a period supposedly under ceasefire.
It is. Israel, of course, maintains its focus is on Hezbollah officials and infrastructure.
And what's the Lebanese government doing on the ground besides condemning the attacks?
The report notes the Lebanese military has been gradually deploying in the south, and Beirut is also calling on the international community to pressure Israel not just to stop attacks, but also to withdraw from 5 specific hilltops they still occupy within Lebanese territory.
So still unresolved territorial issues underpinning some of this, too.
Okay.
I was trying to pull this all together.
It seems we have repeated Israeli strikes, including these significant ones in Beirut suburbs, justified by Israel as responses to Hezbollah holding weapons there, violating the ceasefire.
Right. And strong condemnation from Lebanon, the UN, warnings from Hezbollah about potential escalation if things don't change.
Exactly. All layered over a ceasefire agreement that seems, well, incredibly fragile, with both sides accusing the other of violations and fundamental disagreements persisting.
It really paints a picture of profound instability. Not really a ceasefire in the truest sense, maybe.
It feels more like a pause, perhaps. A very tense, precarious pause. The continued actions, the rhetoric, it suggests the risk of miscalculation or a deliberate escalation is very real.
It certainly feels that way. So on that rather sobering note, maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to mull over. Given this pattern we've discussed, the strikes, the justifications, the warnings, the casualties, how might these ongoing actions, this constant friction, actually shape the future, not just of this specific ceasefire, but maybe the effectiveness of international agreements in these kinds of long, drawn-out conflicts? Something to consider. Thanks for taking the deep dive with us.